Morning, friends and family. Chat with Joe here. Happy Monday morning. Hope you had a good weekend. I don't know why I got so animated there like a robot, but back to my writings. 12/20/17, 12 stepping with spiritual support from Scripture. 2017, it's 2024, so this was 7 years ago. Psalm 18, verse 6, He reached down from heaven and rescued me. He drew me out of deep waters. Step 2 came to believe that God, a power greater than ourselves, could restore us to sanity and stability. And this is what I wrote. Do you feel like you're going under? Are you drowning, sinking into the sea of addiction? I guess this explanation and questions are cliches. The more time you spend addicted, the deeper in that sea you go. Then one day you decide you want to get out of it, but no matter how hard you swim, you can't get nowhere. Before long, you're worn out, you can't keep your head above water, and you begin to sink. You struggle some more, but it's no use. You just give in and sink to the bottom, defeated, broken, and beaten. The whole time you are struggling, if you could just look up, you will see a lifeguard and he walks on water. He has his hand out, but you are so concerned with your struggle, you just can't see that help is just within reach. I spent 16 years in that sea, and God did exactly what that verse states. Stop, be still, breathe, and grab that hand of help. Man, I tell you what, I'm kind of really impressed with that one there, and I was thinking about that on the way home. I just dropped my son off at school, and it's not just the sea of addiction, but the sea of life, right? I think I used the reference of being in a sea because I can't imagine. People have done it. People have survived 3, 4, 7 days on the sea. You know, I can't imagine how desperate and how hopeless it must be to be in the middle of an ocean somewhere and not have help and have to tread water or you know, every way you look, there's no way. I mean, there's just no way to freedom, right? There's no way. Every direction you look is nothing but ocean, right? Everywhere you look, and you have no positioning systems, you have no compass, you have no help coming, and that's why I described addiction is like that. You know, if you don't understand addiction, you have an experience. For those of you out there who never experienced it, that's a lot what it's like. You know, you visualize yourself stuck in the middle of an ocean. And there's nothing around for thousands of miles. You have no help. You know, and then I started to think about, you know, the treatment society, treatment sphere teaches us tough love, and that's a lot like being lost in the sea. You know, if the loved ones in your life have pretty much listened to the treatment society and listened to the treatment realm of doing things, tough love, you know, and have cut you off because that's what they tell you to do. We're done. We're going to cut you off. Financially, yes, absolutely. Cut them off financially. Absolutely. But you can't cut them off from human emotion, human feeling. We're all designed the same way. We all need to feel loved. We all need to feel someone cares about us, you know. So, I mean, I think self-love situation is like putting weights on that poor person who's in the middle of the ocean, right? And you don't want to see them sink, do you? I'm not saying support the habit or encourage the habit, but by all means, cut them off financially. But it's hard for us to understand what it is exactly that they're going through. So the best way to look at it is like that. Your loved one is in the middle of an ocean, all by themselves. They're isolated. They're sure they're cold. I'm sure they're exhausted. In fact, I know they're exhausted. I know they're cold. I know they're tired. I know that they don't want to be in the middle. I mean, who wants to be lost in the middle of an ocean, right? You know, try to look at your loved one like that. And listen to the part where they are so focused on treading water and staying above water that they don't see. They can't see your help right now, even though you're there. You know, and for the person in the ocean, you know, you have to try to look at it from their perspective. You know, and treatment's telling them that, you know, you to cut you off and stuff like that. But your ways have become so destructive So in a sense, you can't blame them. You can't be angry at them. You can't blame them. And then they're not going to sit there and continue to poison you. And they're not going to sit there and continue to add weights to your ankles and watch you sink. They don't want to see you sink. They love you. It's really tricky. My own self personally, when I was in the ocean or in that sea, I couldn't see. All I could see was the water. All I could do was tread. All I could do was try to keep myself above water from drowning and waves crashing and the wind and then the threat of predators and trying to get me and just a kid trying to get you to visualize. That's sort of like what addiction is, man. Like the sheer fear, the panic, the exhaustion, and that person is lost, and there is help. And the help is Jesus Christ, and that's who I discovered in my life. And do yourself a favor today. If you feel like you're lost in the sea of addiction, if you feel like you're lost, and you get family members that are lost, stop focusing on the reason they went into the ocean. There it is. Stop focusing on. That's the problem. We instead of trying to solve the problem, we look at the problem. That's what I was trying to get at. So that's why the moments of pause there is I'm trying to grasp what I'm trying to tell you is that staring at the ocean, staring at the waves, staring at the situation, staring at what they did, what they didn't do, how they did this, how they did that. I can't believe this, can't believe that. Instead of looking at all of that, we need to take all of those things, all of those situations, all those things that had happened and look to the one, right? Just the one, right? What happened when Peter came out of the boat? The story in the Bible, right? He looked at the wind, the waves, and the storm, right? And what happened? He sunk, didn't he? And he real quick put his eyes back on the Lord. And what happened? Jesus reached out his hand, right? So that's where this is coming from. This is the thinking behind that. And then it's personal experience. It's personal experience. I was in that ocean. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried to keep my head above water, no matter what, just nothing gave me relief from the suffering. And I got to the point where I just gave up, man, and I started to sink. Because my eyes were focused on the waves, my eyes were focused on the situation, on my lifestyle. My eyes were focused on all the things going wrong. My eyes were focused on blaming other people. My eyes were focused on the fighting and the arguing and the finger pointing. And my eyes were focused on, I can't escape. And what am I going to do? And how am I going to? And then I'm worried about predators, and I'm worried about things that I've done, things coming to haunt me, all these different and I just could not get my eyes off of the storm. I couldn't get my eyes off of the things that the life that I was living. I couldn't get my eyes off it no matter what I tried to do. No matter how hard I tried to swim, catch that. No matter how hard I tried to swim, I couldn't get anywhere. And I stayed in the same old position. I was flapping my arms and I was kicking my feet and I was flapping. But no matter how hard I struggled, no matter how hard I fought, I just couldn't get out of that rip current. That's a rip current, right? It grabs you, pulls you, right? That's what addiction does, right? It grabs you and it pulls you in and it won't let you go, man, no matter how hard you try, right? The jet stream, right? You swim, and you just can't seem to get anywhere. You've been in the ocean before, you felt rip current pull you in. That's what addiction is, man. That's the sea of addiction. That's what happens when you get caught in that. And no matter how hard I try to struggle, no matter how hard my family struggled to get me to try and get me out of there, there was no getting out. There was just me treading water. Hopefully, and finally I stopped. I was exhausted. I stopped and I stopped looking at everything around me, and I just finally gave in and I relaxed and I surrendered and I began to sink. And as I began to sink, Jesus, just like Peter, reached out in his hand, and I reached up and I grabbed it, and he pulled me up out of that water, and I've been out of the water ever since. Praise Jesus. I'm free, man. I'm free from that. I'm free from that lifestyle. I've worked the 12 steps. I've made recompense with all of my loved ones, and life is good now. Life is good now. So if you're in the sea, if you're struggling, stop struggling. Look up. Help is right there. Be encouraged today. Know God loves you all.